Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. And as you can probably tell by this wonderful piece of fine German engineering being up on ramps, the Christmas miracle did not happen. More on that in a few minutes as we continue on figuring out how to get this thing back on the road. So thanks for tuning in. My name is Brendan, aka Cliff Jumper. This is my son's 1.8 turbo Jetta, which has been a really marvelous family car for us for quite some time now. But in recent months, it's had some issues if you've been following along. And right now, where we are at is we have been fixing all of the things another mechanic broke in the process of putting in a new to us used motor to get her back on the road. So I am beginning to suspect that this motor has some bigger issues than all of the peripheral stuff that I've been diving into. And the reason is, after she sits for a night, on first startup, she runs really, really rough for a couple of minutes. I've been noticing some missing coolant. And this morning when I started it up and the coolant was low, I popped the cap off and there were some vapors coming out, which lead me to suspect she may have a blown head gasket. So after all of this, we may be in for changing the head gasket. So that's fun. Anyway, but before we can even get there, we have to figure out why the radiator fans are not coming on. Now in the process, we've gone through the usual suspects. Underneath here, on top of the battery box, there's some fuses that connect to the fan controller and the radiator fans. Those fuses are fine. We've got power there. That's good. Underneath the battery box, there is the fan controller unit. And I didn't really feel like trying to test it while underneath the car, so I just swapped it. They're like 20 bucks. So put in a new fan controller, and down there at the corner of the radiator, there is a thermal fan switch, which also loops into this whole system. The only thing preventing the radiator fans from working at this point that I'm aware of is if there's a break in the wiring itself somewhere, or if the fans themselves are bad. So we are going to go under the car, disconnect the fan connectors, and test to see if there's power going to them when there should be by turning on the ignition. When you turn on the ignition and the AC button, the fans should come on. So we'll see. And if we see power at that point and the fans don't come on, then I know it's the radiator fans, and we will have to pull all of this off to replace the radiator fans, because yeah, the front end clip just has to at least be, the bumper has to come off. Yeah, the headlights probably need to come off of here. This has to get unbolted at either end so we can swing it forward. The radiator has to come forward, and then you can unbolt the radiator fan shroud and swap that out. So it's a bit of work if that's what needs to happen. Maybe we will luck out and we will find yet another connector that the other mechanic did not connect when he had everything apart, swapping the motor in and out. So that's what I'm hoping for, because they worked fine before all of his monkey work. So I'm hoping that we just find a disconnected connector somewhere in the process and everything comes back to life as is. But that's still going to leave us with the problem of the bad running. I've changed out the ignition plugs. The coils are all working. We were getting code for misfire on cylinders 2 and 3, and we found that the The plugs in there were just, they were trash. They were absolutely awful. So brand new plugs, reset everything, ran beautifully. So yeah, back to we might have a head gasket issue. And if it's still running poorly after we get everything sorted out here, then I'm gonna get one of those testers to test to see if there's combustion gases in the coolant, and that will tell us if we have a bad head gasket. So that's where we're going today. Let's get underneath here and check out the radiator fan. Underneath the front bumper, we got to remove all of these little bolts in order to, or I should say screws, to remove this plastic trim piece, and then we'll have access to the connectors that are back up here in this corner. So right up in here, in this mess, these are the connectors for the radiator fans, and I think I can manipulate them around through this little mess. I'll need both hands, but I should be able to disconnect them and get a probe onto their wiring connectors and check for power. So that is what we're going to aim to do here. So this side is the power side. Let's see if we get the other one. Okay, so both connectors are accessible now, so we're going to run a power probe up here and see if we have power to this. Okay, the key is on, and let's see if there's any power coming to this connector. Nothing. I'm gonna turn the motor on just to make sure there's not a relay that requires the motor actually be on before this activates. I don't want to skip that step, but so far, no voltage happening there. Yeah, nope. We should be getting 12 volts and we're not. So power is not getting to the radiator fans. There is still a problem up top somewhere. We're gonna just double check this voltage again to make sure we're getting voltage across here. Let's see. We have 12 volts. That's going through the fan connector. So that's, yeah, all of them are getting their 12 volt that they should be. So that's normal up here. This little fuse block is not the issue. So somewhere in between this fuse block The fan controller and the fans, something is not happy.
5 minutes later.
We're going to do a little back to basics, and I'm going to just check fuses because there shouldn't be anything that is preventing this from working, but there is a fan fuse. So if by any chance it's not working, then that would definitely make sense. It looks good. We'll test it. It has continuity, so theoretically it should be all right. Test continuity from this side. All right, that should be all right. So that's not it. So we have no power showing up to the radiator fans, but all the other components in the system are good, which would seem to indicate there's a break in the wiring somewhere, and boy, I don't want to trace that. So that's gonna be fun. I'm phoning a friend. I got a couple of 1.8T expert buddies. I'm gonna call them and see what we can figure out together. They might already know the solution without me even having to go into it. So all of this work may have been for nothing, but you know, it's part of the process, is diving through component by component, figuring out what is wrong. For the shade tree mechanic, this is life. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I will get back to you with an update as we continue down this path. God bless. Happy New Year. See you soon. Bye.
And on that terrible disappointment, it's time to say goodbye. We'll be back.